Good morning, everyone. Look around and see who's with you in this sweet ocean of devotion. Kindly bow to the individuals around you. Acknowledge the divinity that's rising up in them, becoming active in their awareness. Be aware of one of the beings sitting behind you, front of you, or next to you. Look at that being and allow that being to represent the entire congregation, not only in this room, with the thousands of people who are streaming in from around the world. Look at that being and say, my. Oh my God, there is so much beauty in you. There's so much love in you. There's dynamic power in you. Creative intelligence is in you. Abundance is in you. Wealth and well-being moves through you. And you have come to set it free, to make a mighty difference on this planet, and to change the world for the better. Let's be about this together in the here and now, and so it is. Amen. Touch and agree. Give somebody a hug or a handshake or a high five or whatever the case may be. But just feel the potency of spiritual community that vibrationally grants you immunity from the lower thought forms and frequencies of fear, doubt, and worry that run through the gamut of the human experience. Spiritual community gives you immunity from that and allows you to develop a spiritual practice that allows you to stabilize an awareness of your oneness with God Almighty, God All Beauty, God All Joy. So you're not living a reactive life, reacting to circumstances and conditions, but representing the presence of God on earth so that conditions and circumstances bend to the prevailing vibration that's emanating through your awareness. So that you're not walking in the world as most people who have not been initiated into the sacred calling of self-optimization and self-actualization and awakened consciousness live most of their days reacting to conditions. Conditions are the past of a previously held point of view, but so many people are living, reacting to external conditions rather than walking boldly in the timeless presence of God and allowing conditions to change as they walk through them. You are here to live in that kind of dynamic purpose for your life so that you're no longer a victim to situations, that you have become victorious in your own life and have transcended the fears, the doubts, and the worries and transmuted them so that you're walking in the eternal and bringing the eternal into time. Now, that's part of your rules for engagement, as the theme would indicate this month. Rules for engagement are simply you remembering that you chose to be here. You chose to have an incarnation. You were not kicked in here. Someone didn't push you into an incarnation. You chose to have this incarnation in order for you to individualize the universal so the universal could individualize itself as your very life. In other words, the oversoul broke into an individual soul so that the universal could universalize the individual, so that your individual soul could universalize the presence, so that you get to represent the presence on the earth. You chose to do this, not to get locked in time and space, but to use it as a canvas to paint with the eternal colors of your sacred soul, which is a unique representation of the infinite presence of God. Now, actually, we could just stop right there and go home. Everything has just been said. It's all right there, you see? But we'll go on. And so your rules for engagement is that you have chosen to be here to bring the timeless into time, to transcend and transmute circumstances and conditions, to bring forth the universal in your individual life, and to bring forth the universal collectively as communities, bring forth the universal collectively as a global consciousness, so all flesh shall see it together, the new heaven and the new earth. You are moving into this rule of engagement, as we discussed last week, with total acceptance, harvesting the good and forgiving everything else, meaning that you are to accept a circumstance as it is, not surrendering to it, not acquiescing to it, and not becoming a victim to it, not giving over to it, but you come to an awareness as a circumstance rears its head. As we talked a little bit about last week, you lost your job, your body betrayed you, your relationship ended, whatever the case may be, you accept what is without wishful thinking. I wish I woulda, coulda, donna, shoulda. That is a waste of time and simply churns thought forms into emotions that creates a fog, a filter of separation so that you can't see the possibilities that are around you. So you accept what is without acquiescing to it, and then you begin to harvest the good of that particular circumstance. So if a particular assignment has come to an end, instead of bemoaning your fate, you mine that particular experience for the gifts that it gave you, for the challenges that made you stronger. You mine it for the talents that arose during that particular time. You mine it for the ways in which you became more aware of the eternal presence within your own heart and soul. You go on a harvest trip, harvesting the good of that relationship, harvesting the good of that employment, harvesting the good of whatever it is, that project, whatever it is that it seemed to come to an end, because everything changes in the world of phenomena. Everything is impermanent. Only thing that stays the same is the presence of God, which is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and all changes take place within that. And then you forgive everything else. You give up blame about everything else so that that which has been sublimated in you and hidden rises to the surface to be healed so that you can walk as a free man and a free woman, allowing for your great destiny that is within you to unfurl and unfold, because you're no longer inhibiting it by being afraid of being afraid. You understand what I just said there? Most people are afraid of being afraid, and so they develop compulsive behaviors to not be afraid. Fear ain't no big deal. All you do is feel it and take it with you. And the fear turns into excitement, and then excitement turns into enthusiasm, because everything is energy. And so you're here to check yourself before you wreck yourself, to check yourself. You're here to check yourself and to see if happiness is there. And if happiness is not there, that's an indication that you have disavowed, disconnected from the universal thrust of creativity and have gotten caught into some kind of stagnant thought that's hindering your happiness. Happiness and bliss is an indication that you are in integrity with your soul, that's universalizing its individual aspect of life. And so when you embrace that through prayer, you embrace that through meditation, you embrace that through life visioning, you embrace that through affirmation and declaration, study and fellowship, you come into being a vehicle and an instrumentality through which the universal individualizes itself as your life, and you bring the realm of ever-expanding good on earth as it is in the mind of the infinite. And so we move from that particular theme that we're embracing this month and understand the topic of moving from predictability to creativity, meaning people often ask, can we predict the future? Forget about it. Create it. You're not here to try to predict the future. As spiritual beings of light and brilliance and luminosity and infinite potential, you're here to co-create the future with the presence of God, with the awareness that you're surrounded by a field of infinite potential and infinite possibility that must be activated by you. So you're not waiting, trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. You're stepping up to the vibrational plate and co-creating the future. You see, moment by moment by moment. And so with the awareness that you're surrounded by a field of infinite potential, you begin to, on a daily basis, describe the future you're living in. And when you're doing that, you're evoking the sacred metaphysical law that states you do not describe what you see what you describe. You begin to describe your future. You begin to articulate it. You begin to announce it to yourself. You begin to have a high conversation and inner dialogue with it on a regular basis until that begins to dominate your perception. And then you begin to walk in the awareness of creating this future by inwardly talking about this and describing this future. And you begin to inwardly talk to it as you're talking to a great friend. You begin to talk to love. You begin to talk to peace. You begin to talk to abundance. You begin to talk to creativity. You're having an inner dialogue, and then something begins to happen. There's a shift in perception. Mystical marriage takes place, and then you begin to notice you're talking from it. First you're talking about it, then you're talking to it, and then you're talking from it. You are describing the future you want to live in. The issue with the world is that they spend an entire amount of time describing what they don't want, an entire amount of time trying to figure out the cause of negativity. With the awareness, they're forgetting there is no cause to negativity, because if there was a cause to negativity, negativity would last forever. Negativity is simply the absence of a dynamic awareness of that which is everywhere but being suppressed by a limited perception. Negativity does not have a cause. It has a suppression based on blindness, spiritual stigmatism, and not knowing the truth. That's called ignorance. All cause of negativity is ignorance, ignoring the truth that makes us free. And so we're not into predictability, we're into creativity. We're going to co-create the future we want to live in beginning right now. And then we become aware that we're not going to infuse our emotions into that which we do not want. This is natural. No, excuse me, it's normal. People do that. They become very emotional about what they don't want to see, forgetting that they're pushing with their emotional body into the very thing they don't want and fueling it, you see, and fueling it. And so it takes a little bit of practice to keep your mouth shut. It takes a little bit of practice to hold your tongue. It takes a little practice to not sublimate and suppress and pretend, but to develop a habit of having a conversation describing the world you want to live in, your individual world that's individualizing the universal, so that the universal can individualize itself as your life, and then allowing when stuff comes up to not go into what you don't want, but to actually use that to say, I'm willing to be prosperous right now. I'm willing to live in a land of peace. I'm living to live in a land of love. I am using my emotions to describe the world I want to live in, so that I am creating a future for myself based on the nowness of this moment. And then you begin to bless. You have to bless your own limitations. You bless the places within you that are unevolved. You bless the places within you that are spiritual gifts in an embryonic state. You begin to bless those limitations in a powerful and magnificent way. Let me jump to that in a second, because I want to say that one of the things you have to do is to hold on to this description of your vision, and you're not holding on to the description of the vision of the future for people, because people, if they're walking in alignment with the conspiracy for mediocrity, they will be envious of you if you succeed, and they will ridicule you if you fail. And so you're not doing anything for people, because if they're unenlightened, once you become successful, they will envy and they will talk about you. And if you fail, they'll ridicule you and they'll talk about you. So we're not doing anything for the human consciousness. You see, we're holding fast to a vision. We're talking about it. We're walking in that direction because we're doing it for God. We're allowing the universal to individualize itself as our life, individually and collectively. And then we embrace and love the seeming limitations. I'm inspired as I look at this here. I'm thinking about the parable about Moses. And in this particular parable, Moses had allowed for the captives to move out of Egypt and to begin to develop Israel. And the king of Arabistan had heard about this great man called Moses, and he commissioned his greatest portrait artist to paint a picture of him. So he sent the artist into Moses' camp, and the artist looked at him and painted the picture of him. And then he brought the picture back, and the king said, wow, it looks exactly like him. And so he brought his wise sages together, the individuals that could tell a character and personality characteristics from a person's facial features. And he asked these great sages to describe Moses based on his facial characteristics. And when they came back, they said, King, based on this portrait, Moses is greedy, he's power hungry, he's lustful, there's all kinds of things. And this doesn't seem like the same guy that brought everybody into freedom. And so the king was a little upset. He said, no, you've got to be wrong. And so the artist and the sages got into an argument. The sages were saying, you didn't paint the picture right. And the artist was saying, no, you didn't describe it properly. You didn't understand your own science. And so finally the king was beside himself. He goes into Moses' camp. And he has the portrait with him, and he looks at Moses, and he looks at the portrait. He said, wow, the artist was dead on. So he bows down at the feet of Moses, and he says, I'm in a dilemma. My portrait artist painted you exactly the way you look. But my sages say that there are all these character defects based on your face. And Moses said, they're both right. He said, all that stuff I was given naturally. But through a force of willingness and spiritual dedication, I was able to transcend those limitations and to bring about, he said, my greatest accomplishment was transcending those particular character flaws or personality defects. And so I used them as a focus of my resolve to transcend them, so that the man you see today is carrying more of the universal than the personality conflicts, you see. And so, as Lee Brown sometimes likes to share in her yoga classes about the yogic sutras, that it is a boon to have limitations, a boon to perhaps have a body that's not as flexible, because there you know what you have to work on. You know what you have to place your attention on. And so we learn to create a future by looking and blessing our limitations. We see what's embryonic in us. We see what needs to be worked on. We don't try to hide it. We don't hide it from ourselves. We go into radical honesty about what needs to be developed. And then we place our full attention there, and we allow the universal to individualize itself in that area of our life, and the strength and the spiritual fortitude that it takes to move through and to transcend those limitations frees up power. Frees up power that otherwise would not be freed up if things were easy. If we didn't know. I always remember a number of years ago, me and a couple of friends, a number of years ago, we were taking a yoga class, and I remember at the end of the class, the yoga teacher came up to me and said, you know, you're not naturally flexible. He says, your friend is naturally flexible. You're not. He says, you'll probably go further because of your dedication, and he might become lazy because it's easier for him. And so I blessed that seeming limitation around inflexibility, and it became a focal point for me to continue, because it wasn't easy, baby. And so when we look at our rules for engagement, you chose to be here. Look at the rules for engagement. The universe, the universal wants to universalize the individual. That's the oversoul becoming an individual soul to universalize the individual. Your role as you begin to wake up is to absolutely allow for the universal to become individual as you, to bring eternity into time. And so as you become initiated into spiritual practice, you become aware that you're not using most of your day to battle conditions and react to them. Most of your day is becoming keenly aware of the eternal within you. And then you notice that conditions start to change, because a condition is a slowed down thought form. It's a congealed opinion, a congealed point of view, a congealed perception. It's a fact can be a lie. You see? It's just if something is not representing wholeness, it's just a congealed thought form. And so many people are just walking through life, bouncing around from experience and situations and circumstances. But when you begin to pray and meditate, you begin to open yourself up with clear declaration and clear intentionality, spiritualizing your focus, then you notice that conditions begin to change, because everything is vibration, everything is in flux. And so instead of everything being all fluxed up, when it does become fluxed up, something's changing, you see? And you begin to accept, you begin to harvest, and you begin to forgive. And then you notice that you're able to walk in the world more and more and more and more, bringing the quality that you're looking for, bringing the gift that you're trying to get from the world, activating the talents. So then you're no longer trying to predict the future, you're creating it, co-creating it, co-creating it. You're having a description of it. Sometimes you just want to stop and begin to write down a description of the life you want to live. And don't limit yourself by asking how that's going to happen. Don't do that to yourself. Don't let the mind get in the way. Well, how is this going to take place? How am I going to get there? How am I going to meet them? How is this going to? No. Just describe it. You're not here you're not just describing what you see. That's where most people live. You're seeing what you describe. And then you talk about it. And I'm not talking about to everybody. I'm not talking about it with yourself. You have an inner conversation, and those that you do talk about it with, they're on your side. They're praying for you, you see. You talk about it, and then you talk to it. You have a conversation with it. And then you begin to talk from it. And then you don't allow your emotions to rush into what you don't want. And then you become aware that this is not a relationship with people that are uninitiated, because as you succeed, you'll be envied. If you fail, you'll be ridiculed. No, you walk in the awareness of the presence of God. And then as you begin to see your limitations in any area of your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever the case may be, you begin to bless those areas of your life. They become a focal point for practice, so that they become a place of transformation, so that as you're transcending those seeming limitations, you'll thank God for them. You say, oh my God, it didn't come easy. What comes to mind, I remember when I used to run a track many years ago, and I was always the shortest on the team, but I was one of the fastest because I had to practice. Whereas the other guys just, I'm big and I'm fast, I can do this. So they didn't necessarily reach their full potential because it came too easy for them. You say, it didn't come easy for me. And so any area of your life, you look at it and you say, this is going to be the area that makes me grow. However that limitation has come, whether it's a karmic propensity, whether it's something you place there yourself in order to transcend, it doesn't matter. You use it for focus and resolve. So that as you transcend and transmute, you're so grateful for it. Now, if you're honest with yourself, you look back on your life right now, and you see the things that were most toughest that you didn't want. You're so glad you got it. You're so glad it came, because then when you got through it and when you transcended, you were a different being. Whoa! It's like, oh my God, if that stuff hadn't happened, I wouldn't have known the depth of endurance. I wouldn't have known the strength of spiritual fortitude. I wouldn't have known the never give up spirit. I wouldn't have known creativity, innovativeness, resourcefulness. I wouldn't have known how to pray for those that curse you and bless those. I wouldn't have known how to forgive at such a deep level if all of that hadn't happened. Thank God for that stuff. Thank God for it. Thank God for it. And then you'll realize that you're always having a relationship with yourself. Yes, I can remember a practitioner saying to someone, they was in the group, and the person was getting up, and they were describing something, they were describing somebody, and they were mad at it. The practitioner said, please tell us more about yourself. You know, your relationship is always with yourself, the developed and undeveloped side. And so you go in and you do the work. And I dare say, you will create a beautiful future. Oh my God, you'll describe it. You'll bless the seeming limitations as stepping stones to greater expression. And you'll live in the future now. You'll live in it now, vibrationally. Now, vibrationally, peace now, vibrationally, love now, vibrationally, abundance now, vibrationally, prosperity now, vibrationally, wholeness now. I'm living in it right this moment. The body temple, the mental body, the emotional body, the body of affairs are now catching up to where I'm living. And I shall not be moved. Like a tree planted by the river, I shall not be moved. Here I abide. I want you to have the life that your soul wants for you. I want you to come into alignment with your oversoul and allow for your individual soul to universalize it. Because the great presence wants to individualize the universal the way that you want to universalize the individual. That the marriage is complete. Oh my God! Feel it in your bones today. Feel it. Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Come with me. What did Corey say? Come home. We're coming from love. Made from, coming from peace. Made coming from God. Made from, coming from the absolute presence that knows no equal nor opposite, knows nothing outside of itself, only knows itself. Because that's all that exists is the absolute presence of God. And so absolutist, God only God, God only God, God only God, absolute presence. We turn within in this moment. Oh my God. We turn within in this moment. Oh my God. We turn within in this moment, and sometimes all we can say is, oh my God. How great thou art. How infinite and divine and perfect is thy holy name, meaning holy nature. And that nature is in us. Some places developed, some places undeveloped, but it's there. And so we rise high in gratitude and thanksgiving. We lift ourselves up in pure appreciation for the divine life. Something happens when gratitude takes hold. We begin to see like we've never seen before. Our perceptual windows become clearer. And we begin to recognize the presence everywhere. Everywhere. As thou seest, so thou beest. We start to see it. We start to be it. As oneness, we start to come into a coherence with it. My life is the life of the divine. Say that. My life is the life of the divine. We begin to feel that our life is the life of the divine. Such connection, such coherence, such oneness. And erupting from this sense of oneness, just as out of no thing, the cosmic mind birthed solar systems and galaxies and multidimensional universes and stars and quarks and living biology, out of nothing, from this sense of unity, out of no thing whatsoever. The word that I'm speaking births galaxies and universes from us universe of a magnificent future that we are creating together right now. All of our needs are met. Divine wholeness and well-being, divine and sweet release from any sense of limitation and fear and doubt and worry. We can claim that something wonderful is happening in our life because our life is divine. Oh my God. This word is now serving as a law of elimination. This word is serving as a law of transmutation and elimination to anything that would hinder, delay, obstruct, deny the fullness of life from moving through us right now. Any place within us that is suppressing peace of mind. Any place within us that's suppressing love, suppressing abundance, suppressing prosperity. Any place within us that is suppressing health and harmony and wholeness, all being recalibrated right now. God is everywhere, being recalibrated right now, that we can reveal a divine freedom and a spiritual liberation. Right here, right now. Say it with me, right here, right now. Just touch your own heart space. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. Right here, love is. Right here, peace is. Right here, abundance is. Right here, prosperity is. Right here, health is. Right here, God is. We feel into that right now. We feel the tonal quality of a love supreme taking over our existence. We've moved ourselves out of the way. Something wonderful is happening. Oh, I'm describing it. A living description. Something wonderful is happening in our life right now. Something wonderful is happening, and it's beyond the pale of our imagining. It's beyond what we can imagine. Something wonderful is happening. Say it. Say it. Say it. Oh my God. Let's feel it. Let's feel it. The Spirit of God is upon us.
Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, Spirit of God is upon me.
Something about the power of prayer. I want you to take the hand of the being next to you. It's not an accident you're sitting next to whoever it is you're sitting next to. It's not an accident. You're there to co-create a bright and shining future that's more of the now expanding. Our tomorrow is just more of God's today. It's expanding our awareness